Next week on Home and Away in the UK, it's the end of an era as Irene leaves Summer Bay for good after nearly 33 years. Irene's departure comes 6 weeks after she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, following a number of worrying memory lapses. As Irene looked through old photos and postcards, lamenting the fact that she wouldn't be able to visit all the places around the world she'd hoped to see one day, Sunny pointed out she still had time, and that she shouldn't let her diagnosis rule her immediate future. Opting to seize the day, Irene announced the very next day that she was going to put the beach house on the market, and use the money to fund a trip around the world. Irene's loved ones, particularly John, were concerned about her decision, but she assured them that she was putting arrangements in place to ensure her safety. She would be staying with various friends along the way, and would otherwise be traveling with carers. Although friends including Leah, Justin and Alf vowed to support her following her heartfelt plea, it took John a little longer to get his head around the idea of losing his best mate. As the final itinerary came together this week, Irene was dealt a harsh dose of reality when John found her at the diner, having completely forgotten that she no longer worked there. Not wanting to waste a moment longer, Irene decided that she wasn't going to wait another 6 weeks as planned, and would leave Summer Bay as soon as possible. Next week, it's action stations for Leah, Justin, Alf, John and Marilyn as they bring forward the preparation for Irene's farewell party. John's disappointed that Irene is leaving even earlier than anticipated, but is determined to do her justice with his farewell speech. When Leah liaises with her Yabby Creek travel agent contact over the new arrangements, Irene is left with a snap choice. The only 2 departure dates that would be feasible for her itinerary are one 3 weeks away, or one in 3 days' time. In the end, it's not a tricky decision as Irene makes her mind up on the spot. One day to tie up loose ends, another to see the grandkids in the city, and then she'll be gone. The reality sinks in for John as he watches his friend pack up her life. Justin does his best to bolster John as they lend a hand shifting Irene's belongings into storage, but he can't ease the blow of John losing his closest companion. Word quickly gets around for Irene's farewell party, and as the group reconvene in the diner, Justin agrees for himself and Theo to provide the music. It's clear that Leah's putting all of her heart into organizing the perfect goodbye, but she worries whether it will be enough. Alf assures her that all Irene will want is for her nearest and dearest to be with her. When Leah calls over at the beach house that evening with a takeaway, in order to go over Irene's travel plans, she's taken aback by the bare living room. An entire lifetime gone in the blink of an eye, Irene comments as the two share a poignant moment. Leah tries to stay upbeat as she hands over all the paperwork, but cannot help but feel saddened as she reflects on all they've been through together over the years. "It just feels like the end," Leah tearfully states. "That's because it is, love," an equally emotional Irene replies. The next day, the grassy area outside the surf club is all prepared for the gathering. Leah and Justin note that there's been no word of John, but otherwise everything is ready for the guest of honor. When Irene arrives, she's struck by the effort that everyone's gone to: a grand cake, a fully stocked mocktail bar, and Marilyn with her tarot cards lined up for a final reading to send Irene on her way. Irene's quick to notice John's absence, and Leah covers by saying he'll be there shortly. But as Irene sits down for her reading with Marilyn, Justin and Leah worry about John. If he's not there, Irene will be heartbroken. Theo arrives at the party with his guitar, but Justin intercepts him, asking him to start without him as he needs to find John. While Theo sets up, Leah, Alf and Marilyn field Irene's questions about where John has got to. Over at the diner, John sits alone, ignoring Alf's calls until Justin tracks him down. Justin reminds him that none of them really want to say goodbye, telling him to forget about the speech if that's what's worrying him and just come along. John, frustrated, walks out. But Justin follows and points out that when tomorrow comes and Irene has gone, he'll regret not being there. When an apologetic John finally shows his face, Irene's delighted. "You big galoot. I'm just glad you're here." Everyone sits down to eat, with Alf inviting David to join them. John stands to speak, admitting he struggled with what to say, but knowing he speaks for them all when he says Irene has given them so much. They don't want her to go, but if this is what she wants, he couldn't be prouder. Raising a glass, John toasts. "The bravest woman I've ever met, we applaud you, Irene Roberts." Justin and Theo follow up with their duet, a cover of Alex Lloyd's "You Were Amazing," and John invites Irene to dance. As the two pair up, more residents take to the dance floor, with Marilyn dragging Alf up and Leah inviting David to join her. As Irene's time in the Bay draws to an end, she quietly asks Alf to hold on to some letters for her, to be handed out to everyone once she's left. At that point, the time has finally come. Irene thanks the guests for the send-off but explains it's time for her to go, encouraging them all to stay and enjoy themselves. Leah and Marilyn take turns to give Irene a tearful hug, saying a fond farewell to one of their oldest friends. It all begins to get too much for John as he turns to leave, but Irene cottons on immediately, as she collars him and asks him to walk with her for a moment. As the two head off, Summer Bay waves goodbye as Irene blows everyone a kiss. John struggles to find the words when alone with Irene, but she then throws him off guard by presenting him with a plane ticket to Paris. With John having previously told Irene it was a dream to have coffee in Paris, Irene instructs him to meet her under the Eiffel Tower in a few weeks' time. So you see, it's not goodbye. It's au revoir, Irene gently tells him. Choked up, John tells Irene that he'll be there come hell or high water, as Irene heads back to the beach house for the last time. Picking up the last few of her belongings, Irene takes one final look at her beloved home before heading outside, where Sonny is waiting to give her a lift to the city, complete with a merkin chauffeur's uniform. As Sonny and Irene head out of the bay, her loved ones are opening up their letters, where she explains she wants them to remember her as she is now, and reminds them to make every moment count. Passing the "You are now leaving Summer Bay" sign, Sonny looks in his rearview mirror and asks Irene if she has any regrets. "None, love," Irene replies, before turning towards the viewers. Life's too short. As Irene leaves after more than 3 decades on Home and Away, read our full tribute as we take a look at her time on the show. Next week's episodes also mark the return of a long-absent piece of Summer Bay history, the exterior of the beach house. As detailed in our in-depth filming locations guide, the beach house first appeared in 1990 and, for the best part of a decade, exterior scenes outside the house were a regular feature. From 1999 however, the frontage vanished from our screens, with stock footage instead showing Clairville Beach that the real-life house sits on. When the show switched to widescreen in 2001 and fresh stock shots were required, a different property in Narrabeen was brought in. No exterior scenes were ever filmed at this location, meaning Irene would go another 24 years without being seen outside her own home. The decision to finally bring the exterior back just as Irene departs is a surprise in itself, but longtime fans may get an even bigger shock when they recognize the house now doubling as the beach house. It's the very same property once used for the Bayside Diner, the building where Irene herself worked during her early years on the show. The diner was moved on-screen in 2000, after Colleen accidentally sparked a kitchen fire, with the real-life property undergoing modernization soon afterwards. This isn't the first time the location has resurfaced either. It briefly returned in 2013, when it was used as the home of Ricky Sharp's brother, Adam. It won't take viewers to note one strange anomaly with the choice of location however. Unlike its on-screen counterpart, the real-life house has no upper story.